Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about World Wide Web, Internet, and HTML. A very small, brief discussion about these technologies. To begin with, let's start with the network of all networks called the Internet. The Internet was invented by Tim Berners-Lee in 1989 at CERN, which is the European Laboratory for Particle Physics in Geneva. The need of the hour at that time was that it was getting difficult for the researchers to share their research amongst themselves. So to solve this problem, Tim Berners-Lee came with the solution of creating web pages with the help of World Wide Web and HTML. And then, in order to share those pages amongst fellow researchers, he created something called as the Internet. So let's just understand the working of this whole process. Communication of system begins at the user end or the client side. So whenever a website needs to be accessed, we require obviously internet connection, but along with that internet connection in our system, we require a web browser. Now that web browser could be anything. It can be Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari, or any other. Then we type in the address of the website we need to access. Now this address is referred to as URL or Uniform Resource Locator. For example, if I have to open a website called yahoo.com or google.com, I will type http://www.google.com or yahoo.com. As in the graphics you can see here, the URL is http://example.com written here in the address bar. So after typing in the URL, system at the client side connects to another system called the server, which may be anywhere across the globe. And in milliseconds, the server starts communicating back to the computer in a language called HTTP. Now, what is this HTTP? HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Now, this is a request-response protocol where it gives users a way to interact with web resources such as HTML files by transmitting hypertext messages between clients and servers. The communication takes place with the help of GET requests. Now, for example, when a request to access www.google.com reaches the Google server, its GET request tells the server that the user is trying to access the web page and sends the web page containing HTML code back to the server. Let's just try and understand this with the help of this picture here. So the very first step is the user issues URL from a browser. This URL is, for example, here written as http://host/port/file. Now this host:/port will be something called as www.google.com, for example. Then the browser sends a request message. This is a GET message URL. This URL, which is fetched from this previous step, is sent forward with the help of a GET message to the server. Now the server maps the URL to a file or program under the document directory, which means the server contains a document directory and that URL is mapped with the file or program under this document directory. Then this server returns a response message. So the server returns a response message, and if everything is okay, we get the response message as 200. And this whole communication process takes place with the help of HTTP, which is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, over TCP/IP protocol, which is the networking protocol SOO. Finally, the browser formats the response and displays it on the computer screen here. You might have also noticed that if sometimes you see an error called as 404 error. Now this 404 error means the HTTP status returned here was not 200 but instead 404, which means the file was not found by the server. So this message actually comes from this server here. The server sends this message to this response message. The response message sends it back to the web browser and the web browser displays it. So if the file is not found, it will display a 404 error. So similarly, there are many more response messages which are sent with HTTP depending upon the error or success, whatever we get from the server. So finally, just to wrap up, let's also introduce what HTML is. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which describes how the page will look. So which means whenever the browser formats the response and display, this formats the response and displays part is done with the help of HTML by the browser. So HTML here stands for Hypertext Markup Language. This language describes how the page will look. That is, it will give the structure to the web page, telling where on the page the content will be placed, where the content can be your text, images, video, audio, or any sort of graphics. In this, there are two terms which are important. One is known as the hypertext, another is known as the markup. Now, hypertext means text that contains linked to other text. For example, let's just say that we have opened this website called Yahoo. So in this, you can see various links. If I move my cursor onto mail or coronavirus, cricket, news, you can see that the shape of my cursor changes. And if I click on any of these keywords, the new page for that particular keyword will be opened. So what happened here is that there has been a hypertext or a hyperlink associated with this text. Another keyword associated is called as markup. Markup means text in HTML is marked up with the help of tags, so it is styled and made presentable to the user using markups. For example, if this is my Yahoo page source, you can see this title markup beginning in angle brackets here and closing in here. So which means this whole text written in between these two angle bracket has been marked up with the title markup, and this is displayed here. If I move my cursor here, this is the title bar. And you can see here Yahoo India News, Finance, Cricket, and this is what is written here. So this was a quick introduction to World Wide Web, Internet, and HTML is all about. Before we move on to our next video, I would like you to reflect on these questions. If you are able to answer all of these questions, you're good to go to the next video. Else, I would advise you to have a quick recap of this video. Thank you guys and happy learning.